Hey everybody, good morning. How are you? Happy Wednesday. It's the middle of the week. We made it to the middle of the week. Only 2 more days to go till Friday, and only one more day to go for us to have our special interview tomorrow. So, right from the beginning, I want to remind you that on Thursdays in August, I've been bringing you special interviews. I've been reaching out to my friends, calling in old favors, calling my old colleagues. And tomorrow, I'm going to bring in an HR analytics specialist, my friend Lynn. She's very talented, has many, many years of experience in a variety of companies, a variety of different levels. She's a director at a large global bank. So a really nice lady. She's going to come in and talk to us. Where else? Where else are you guys going to have access to a director or a managing director? Because that's all I brought you. I only know people at the very top, guys. I'm only bringing you the very, very best interviews. So I hope that you're able to join us tomorrow, Thursday at 1500 GMT. My friend Lynn's coming in. The following week, I have another director coming in. And then the week after that, I have another managing director coming in. I don't want to announce them just yet because I'm still working on them a little bit, still ironing out the details. But I've got at least 2 more people lined up to come talk to us. But tomorrow, my friend Lynn, HR Analytics, really smart lady. You're going to really enjoy it. So bring your questions, come ready. It's going to be a good interview. Okay. So I hope you guys are able to join us. So I'm seeing people already join us. Look, we got all 3 platforms. We got Instagram people, we got YouTube people, we got Twitch people, all people already signing up. So if you're new, that's okay. I get a lot of new followers. So we like to start off with our global roll call. Please let me know your city, state, province, country that you're from. Let us know where you're at in the world. It kind of helps us, understand the global nature, the global community of data science. And in addition to that, in the chats across all platforms, I have pinned the link to our Discord community. I think that we're building something really special there on Discord. We have over 130 people already there. So if you want to keep the conversation going beyond these live streams, beyond your personal study or whatnot, kind of take a different approach to data science, a more collaborative approach where you're listening to other people's perspectives, please feel free to join us on Discord, and there's some really good people there that you can kind of create some fellowship with. So let us know your city, state, province, country. Would love to know where you're from. While I let you guys fill up my chat, I always like to start off with an opening note. And I always have this list of different ideas of different topics that I want to do. My list is like 100 items long. There's so many things I could talk to you guys about. And today I was just kind of reading through, and I made it to the very bottom. And one of the items that I had put at the very bottom for some reason was a concept around innovation. So for today's opening note, I want to talk to you about innovation. And I mention innovation because, well, first of all, I think it's a very interesting topic overall, but mostly because a lot of corporate environments where you will end up working, it is likely that you would end up working for an innovation team. Innovation team is a very common title that's given to your data science teams, your advanced analytics teams, kind of those teams that are working on some cutting edge stuff. So you should get accustomed to thinking about you being a member of an innovation team. That's very likely to happen, either early on or at some point in your career. So what does it mean to be innovative, right? If you're going to be part of that team, what does it actually mean to be innovative? And I've had some really interesting discussions about that, but the discussion that sticks with me most is speaking with my mentor. I have a mentor that I met at a client site. We've known each other for probably approaching 15 years now. He's a really smart guy. I worked alongside him. He hired me for one of my client sites, and we've developed a relationship through that. And we allow that business relationship to turn into a personal relationship where we go out for dinner and whatnot. He's become somewhat of a mentor to me, and he has a lot of experience working for large companies and some of the largest tech companies in the world. And he shared with me his experience at one particular company. He worked for a large computer manufacturer, a global manufacturer. I don't want to say the name, but all of you would recognize the name if I told you. But a large hardware manufacturer. They made personal computers, servers, things along those lines. So you get the idea. And they had what they called the innovation 50-50 rule. If you are on an innovation team, you should be able to take all of your ideas, kind of looking back on the work you've done, right, for like a year, let's say. You should find that you had 50% successes and 50% failures. You should have, and you should accept that about half your projects are going to be failures. You're going to have your successes and you're going to have your failures, and they're going to be about a 50-50 balance. And the rationale behind that was that if you have too many successes, let's say you had like 80% success rate on a project. And that's kind of what we want, right? Because we say, well, I don't want to fail. I want this to look good. I want myself to look good. A failure will look bad, right? If you have too many successes, it means that you weren't pushing the envelope enough. You weren't innovative enough, right? You were basically just kind of meeting the expectations of any technology team. So you would just be a technology team. You wouldn't be an innovation team, right? That's what those failures indicate. That, hey, we really tried something new. We were trying stuff that you can't Google anymore, that wasn't on Stack Overflow, and we failed, right? But that's okay, because that shows that you were actually exercising innovation. Now, at the same time, you don't want too many failures, right? Because at that point, it is possible to be a little bit too bleeding edge. So you really don't kind of want to be above the 50% failure mark. You only had 10% successes. Because at that point, maybe you were a little bit too esoteric in your choices, or maybe there's something wrong in the way you're executing your projects, right? Maybe there might be some skills on the team that are lacking. Or at some point, if you have a team that's only 20% successes, 80% failures, return on investment comes into the equation, right? Because the company overall still wants to see a return on investment from innovation teams. So at a 50% success rate, you should be able to not just be producing good items, but also providing an overall return on investment to cover your failures, right? So that's why they found a 50-50 balance to be what they advocated for. It was enough to say, we're pushing the bleeding edge. We're really trying some innovative things. Not everything's going to work out, but the team overall, in terms of deployments and financially, is still a successful team. So that's really one of the most memorable conversations I've had with my mentor. And I try to carry that forward in my work. I've used it at the subsequent client sites that I've worked with after him, because I've worked for various clients since I first met him and since he first shared this with me. But it's something that I'm sharing with you to encourage all of you to think about how you're being innovative. Are you really pushing the envelope? Are you willing to accept some failures? Are you willing to accept, hey, you know what, that didn't work out, but the fundamental idea was still good, right? Maybe my rationale needs a little bit tuning. Maybe I ran into a lack of tools or whatnot. Or, nowadays, maybe you run out of funding for the processing power you need. But it was an inherently good idea. It was an inherently innovative idea. And that's a positive thing, right? So I want you to think about these things, kind of going forward. Are you pushing the envelope? Are you really being innovative? Or are you just kind of deploying another tech project, right? Because then you're really not an innovation team. And it's really at those bleeding edge projects that you're going to find yourself really kind of impressing your stakeholders, writing articles and maybe even white papers on things that you can publish beyond your current work, beyond your current company, maybe like an interest into going beyond into the industry or into other industries. So I'm going to stop there, but I really think that that's something, that you should consider for the future. It's advice that served me well, and in turn, I wanted to pass it on to you. All right, so I'm seeing some people joining in. If you're just joining us late, on Instagram or on YouTube, we are doing our global roll call. Feel free to let me know your city, state, country, province. Just let us know where you're from. Let us know just where you're at, right? Nobody's going to call on you. You don't have to be embarrassed. Just adds to the participation, helps you feel part of the conversation, and helps build the community. It's just something that we do to start off every chat, and also it brings a little bit of a level of professionalism, if you will, to the chat. So I appreciate if you want to introduce yourself. You know, I always repeat the request for the global roll call because I get new followers quite a bit. I run various campaigns that are growing my followers across the board. So I'm getting about 300 something new followers on YouTube every week, 400 or so on Instagram every week. So if you're new, don't worry. Love having you here. Just go ahead and introduce yourself just to kind of help join the community and all that. So while you're doing that, I'm going to start going through some of the chats because I see some people already joining in. Animesh is our first chatter today. Just says hi. Animesh, let us know where you're from, please. Shivam says hi. Shivam, remind me where you're from. I think you've joined before, but remind me where you're from. Patrick's one of our moderators, says good morning, afternoon, and night, everyone. You know, I don't know what the etiquette is on that. I always found it funny when people introduce, you know, good morning, good afternoon, good night. I think it should just be relative to where you are, right? Because then that shows where you are and what. That's what I always use. I say good morning or good night based on where I'm at, and go from there. But for me, it's morning. It's 8 a.m. where I am. I know some of you are in the nighttime. So, good morning to everyone across the world. My friend Noogler, please and thank you go a long way, okay? Argod says, hello, Dennis and everyone. Hey, Argod, how are you? Good to see you. You're on Instagram today. I know you shift between Instagram and YouTube. Good to see you on Instagram today. Uzair, our man in Ohio. How are you, Uzair? Hi, Uzair from Cleveland. How you doing, sir? Uzair, thank you so much for asking. I'm doing fine. I've been up since like 3 in the morning. Been doing a lot of work. You know, I don't share that very often with you guys, but in addition to all this content creation and everything else I do, I still have like the consulting side of what I do, right? Like I still have to keep up with those interests and making sure I have clients and someone to bill and all of that stuff that I do, right? You know, I manage my own email servers and, you know, I got to line up guests for you guys for content. I have friends asking me questions. I'm going to be speaking at a couple of conferences in 2025. So all these things I have going on in addition to the time that all of us spend together here during the chat. So I've been working on some of those things this morning. You know, I've been revamping a couple different things that I'm looking forward to deploying, which I'll share with you guys once those are ready. But I'm doing well, just very busy. But thanks so much for asking, Uzair. Hope you're well too. Shivam, I might come back to questions later. Okay. Rex is also one of our moderators. He's one of our moderators on Twitch and on our Discord. Hi from New York City. Hope you're all having a great day. Yeah, Rex, I think we're off to a good day. You know, it's already Wednesday, and tomorrow is our special guest, so I think we're going to do really well. Vigneswar from Philadelphia. Cool, nice to see you. Hope you're doing well out there. Lots of big companies in Philadelphia. Do you work for one of the big companies down there? What do you do in Philadelphia? If you feel comfortable sharing, let us know, okay? Patrick says, we all really appreciate you bringing in the guests. Oh yeah, thanks for that feedback, Patrick. You know, I think the guests have gone over well. You guys always bring great questions, so please come prepared for that tomorrow. You know, the people I've approached have been really nice in sharing their time and being willing to come, which I really appreciate. Some of my friends are under social media policies, others are not. So I'm trying to hit up the people that are not under those policies so that they can come and speak freely to all of you. And most of all, you know, I'm really happy how many of them are willing to do it live, you know. When I approach someone, I offer both options. We can do it pre-recorded, we can do it live, whatever you're comfortable with. But they choose live, you know, they want to come and meet you too. So I'm glad, Patrick, I'm glad you guys are excited about the guests. They're excited about it too. I always have like pre-meetings with them, you know, to check their technical connection and answer their questions. So I know they get excited, so they're going to come excited and ready. So I hope you guys come excited and ready too. So remember, tomorrow, 1500 GMT, my friend Lynn, she's an HR analytics specialist. You guys might not even know what HR analytics is, but it's a big field. There's a lot of positions in that field. You want a job, you can look at HR analytics. You can look at audit analytics. You can look at marketing analytics. There's all these specialized real estate analytics. There's all these specialized analytics fields. Don't sleep on those. Lots of jobs, lots of opportunities in those, right? So really looking forward to hearing her perspective. Like I said, I spoke with her yesterday. She's very excited. She has a wealth of experience, and also whenever I meet with my guests, I give them the analytics of my audience. I help them understand where the conversations could go. So she's prepared to come and answer questions that you might have about interviews and jobs and entering the workforce and things along those lines. So really looking forward to tomorrow. Hope you guys are too. Uzair says 11 a.m. is not an ideal time for me, but I'm going to try and join you once in a while. Love your streams. Oh, thank you so much, Uzair. I really appreciate you saying that. So Uzair, I do keep all of my streams on YouTube. I don't delete anything from YouTube. So feel free to watch the replays. A lot of people watch the replays. I would have never thought people watch them, but I get a lot of replays on those on the streams. And Uzair, from time to time, I also will do what is for me a nighttime stream that is more convenient for Asia, but I do it early enough in the US where a lot of people in the US attend. Uzair, I'm tempted to say that you might have attended the last one. I know I got quite a few people from the East Coast the last time I did it. So I'm trying to find a more regular schedule to be able to do those streams. So maybe those streams are a little bit more convenient. For you in Ohio, that would be about 8 p.m., 9 p.m. that I usually go online. So keep an eye out for those. Turn your notifications on so YouTube will tell you when I'm on or Instagram will tell you. But I am trying to mix up the times. I'm aware that I have followers all over the world, so I'm trying to, find more convenient times. So, but thank you for that feedback, Uzair. So Shivam is sharing that they are from Jharkhand, India. Cool. I have no idea where Jharkhand is, but I'm glad you're here. Yassine, our good friend Yassine from Morocco is back. Yassine says, hello, sir. Yassine from Fez, Morocco. Yassine, have you gone back to school yet? Has it started yet? Let us know if you're in Fez or in was it Rabat that you go to school in, or Casablanca? I can't remember. Nathan says, Nathan from India. Well, great, Nathan. Nice to see you. I think you've been here before. Welcome. Noogler in making. I'm from Calcutta, India. Help me next week. Next week is my data science interview. We'll come back to this, Noogler. We'll come back to this. Patrick says, joining from Knoxville, Tennessee. That's right. Patrick is one of our people in Knoxville. So glad you're here, Patrick. Rohan, good morning, Dennis and all. Rohan from Vizag, India. Rohan, we were worried for you. You're usually first. You're usually at the very top. You're late today. Are you okay, buddy? We were going to send a search party out there in Vizag, India. We were going to start looking for people on Fiverr to go form a search party and go find you. Hope you're doing well, Rohan. Noogler, I'm sorry I don't understand your next few messages. I'm gonna skip over a couple of these messages. Leo, how you doing, Leo? Leo, I think you're also in New York City, aren't you? Good morning, chat. Good morning, Dennis. Yeah, good morning to you too, Leo. Hope that you're doing well. So if you want to join our Discord, the link is in the chat. It's one of the pinned messages. Leo is also trying to see if there's an audience for data science competitions. If you're interested in doing like Kaggle competitions as a team, there's some like-minded people available on my Discord. So go ahead and join, add to the general conversation, or you can also go to the channel that's dedicated for competitions, and you can find people like Leo there, and see if if you can find some partners or develop a team to enter some of these competitions. Okay. Leo, I'm going to come back to your next question because I'm pretty sure you're talking about the opening. No, I want to get through some of the introductions. Our guy is saying they are still from Hamirpur, Pradesh, India. Okay, thank you, Argad. Thanks for that. Garbit says hello, Dennis from India as well. Mason Pease, hello Dennis, watching from University of Pittsburgh, learning so much. Thank you. I appreciate that. I hope you are learning. That's why I do this, right? I hope that people are learning something from this. But thanks so much. Appreciate the feedback. Appreciate that you're here. You know, I'm getting some of the nicest messages on YouTube. I posted one to Instagram yesterday because I got a really nice message, really nice feedback. You know, gave me the feels and everything, right? So I appreciate that feedback from all of you. Ravindran says, hello Ravindran. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Garvet says, hello Dennis, love your work, by the way, from India. Thank you, Garvet, appreciate that. Let me know what part of India. I'm smart enough to know that India is a big country, so you got to tell me the city. Our God is being very honest and telling us, actually, I'm mostly drunk, so I'm on Insta. When I'm sober, I get to I get to YouTube. Okay. Well, you know, in a funny way, our God has shared his algorithm with us, right? His algorithm for choosing what platform to view. It's all based on the inebriation levels. So thank you so much for that, our God. Our God is being very honest with us. Thank you. Mason, I'm going to come back to your question, okay? Vigneswar, I'm going to come back to that. Polak, I'm going to come back to your question. Nithin, I'm also going to come back to your question. Lakshmi, good to see you again, Lakshmi. How are you? Lakshmi is one of our regular attendees during our Sunday classes. So if you guys want to come and learn, because the best way to land a job, the best way to actually be a data scientist is to learn and invest in yourself, right? We are doing the Introduction to Statistical Learning book. Every Sunday, 1500 GMT, we go chapter by chapter. We are going to be on chapter 8 this week, I believe. We've had a fantastic group. You know, for those of you that have been attending, you should be proud of yourselves. I think we're really making a lot of progress. Lakshmi has been one of those people. That's why I was reminded of this. But if you're serious about data science, this is where professional data science begins. I've told this story before, but I gotta say it again because we see a lot of new people. I had dinner last week with my good friend who is the VP of Innovation at a very, very large company. I guarantee you it's a company all of you would want to work for. And I told him, I said, hey, so I'm teaching the Introduction to Statistical Learning book. And he immediately knew. He was like, oh, the yellow book. You're teaching the yellow book. And I was like, yeah, that's right. Every professional data scientist you will come across knows this book. So if you want to come, if you're really serious about investing in your career, Sundays, 1500 GMT, it's totally free. I don't charge for it. You know, I do it to help the next generation of data scientists. So Lakshmi, thanks for attending those classes. I hope you're getting a lot out of them. And if you're new here, if you haven't heard of that book, start coming. I guarantee you it will elevate your skills. Anubhav Sama says, hi. Hey, Anubhav, let us know where you're from. Satyam Baduria, hello, Dennis. I'm from Delhi, India. Nice, very cool. Does Delhi have bad traffic? I think I've heard that about Delhi, right? Hope you're doing well, Satyam. Leo says, yes, I'm a New Yorker in Fiddy. Okay. All right, very cool. So you probably live in one of the high rises. I mean, I guess that's all there is down there, just about all the high rises in Fiddy. Yeah, thanks for that reminder, Leo. Okay, Garvit is also from Delhi, India. Do you guys know each other? Just kidding. I know there's a lot of people. Argot, I'm going to come back to your question here. Okay, let me finish out my introductions. Anubhav says, hey, hi, I am from Chandigarh. In India. Okay, cool. Welcome, Anubhav. I'm tempted to say this is your first time here, but hope you're doing well. D, I'm going to go ahead and go to the questions because I think that's the intros. If you're still joining us, let us know in the city, state, province that you're from. D says, do you have a structured course for beginners? I have a video. That'll get you started. On my YouTube, Data Science with Dennis, you can search for Data Scientist Roadmap for Students. That will give you like a, you know, if you're just starting out, if you're a student or, you know, an early career professional, that will help you out. That will help you kind of understand the different courses or the different recommendations I make for somebody that's just starting out. And I'm doing that based on my experience about how I did it. I did it a while ago, but I've kind of updated it for today. So feel free to check that out, D. And then you can also find the replays of the classes I've done for this book. It's a lot. It's like 12 and a half hours of content now. But that will also help you get from a level 0 to kind of start understanding some of the data science concepts that are out there. Okay, so I hope that helps you. Okay, so I'm going to start going to some of the questions because I know I skipped over some of the questions. Guys, I've done a little bit of content on this before. So if you've heard it before, I'm sorry for repeating myself. But when you're asking for somebody to help you, please and thank you go a long way. Properly introducing yourself goes a long way. Reading the other person goes a long way. But if you're asking for favors, if you're asking for somebody to help you, if you're reaching out for a job or some sort of mentoring help, please and thank you go a long way. Okay? Just keep that in mind because I think, that's not something that's exclusive to me. Some of the messages that I get and some of the hiring managers that I know, like they're never replying to you, right? Like you have very, very low probability of success when you don't communicate, and at least with at least some level of etiquette. Okay, so just keep that in mind because I think it will help you, not just with me, but also in the future. All right, let me go ahead and start looking again. Okay, so Leo comes and says, that's a good ratio. And he's referring to the opening note that I mentioned, the 50-50 balance of failures and successes. So yeah, Leo, I think it is a good ratio. Again, because the 50% successes should show that 1, you're delivering, right? Because you want to have something to show. And 2, that the team overall can justify its existence and providing some sort of return on investment, right? The ROI. While the other 50% does show that, hey, we took some shots, they didn't work out, we ran into a couple of insurmountable changes, but we were pushing the edge, right? We were innovating, right? So when that ratio moves, then you start to kind of say, well, if the success ratio is too high, are you really pushing the edge, right? So I agree, Leo. It's a good ratio. Again, this was put in use by one of the largest, computer companies in the world. And it's something that I've carried forward. And when I explain it to some of my bosses, as far as how I like to think of my teams and how I like to structure my projects for the year, they get it, right? Most people get it. It helps if you really are on an innovation team, right? Some people just call themselves an innovation team and they get scared when it's time to push the edge. But for the most part, it is a good ratio. And that's why I decided to share it today, because I think it really helps with the attitude, the tone that you're going to set for your team. And you're also making it known that don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I had this idea. We thought about it. We had a decent rationale behind it. We gave it our best shot. It didn't work out, and that's okay, right? It's totally okay to fail, right? So I'm glad you like that, Leo. I'm glad you got something out of that opening note. That's why I share it, to maybe kind of help people think or contribute to the conversation in it. Pollock, did I get where you're from? Pollock, let us know where you're from. Pollock says, how do you define a full stack data scientist? What are the key skills that are needed? Pollock, that's a hard question. I say that's a hard question because I think that this varies throughout your career. Are you talking about a beginner data scientist, a mid-level, a senior data scientist, a chief data scientist? I could think of different ways of how this varies throughout your career. It's not a static thing. So if you guys are seeing this question, I want to repeat it again. How do you define a full stack data scientist? What are the key skills that are needed? I really think that's a moving target. I really think that's something that you individually should revisit every year in your career, in your job. What is expected of me this year, right? What are the tools that I'm using? What are some of the new tools that have entered the arena that perhaps I should be looking at? New techniques that have entered the arena, right? Data science is a quickly changing landscape in that way. And key skills completely changes from year to year. So one of the ways I would illustrate that for you, Pollock, is that your communication skills, the requirement for your communication skills only increase throughout your career. That's an increasing scale that never goes down. So if you're like a junior data scientist, you're going to need about 10% skills. If you want to go to being a regular data scientist, you're going to need about 20% skills. A senior data scientist is like 50% skills, right? And then if you want to be like a lead data or a chief data scientist, then that's like 80% of your skills, right? So it's a scale, and it's like an exponential scale, right? So that I'm using that as an example, but at the same time, maybe like your Python skills also need to improve. Your modeling skills need to improve. Your creativity needs to, your creativity and your communication are probably along that same scale, right? You don't need to be wholly creative as a junior because you'll be told what to do, right? But if you want to grow your career to be the person that's leading others and helping others on what to do, then you got to be the creative one, right? So Pollock, super hard to answer your question. It's a moving target. There is no single answer. Now, if you want to tell us where you're at, I might be able to narrow it down. But you shouldn't think of, okay, well, I got these skills, so I'm set. It's something that you should absolutely revisit no matter where you're at in your career. It's something that I still do. I still consistently revisit. I learn new things from every client, every project, every article I read. So not a static set. There is no single job, single definition for that. Nithin says, my first time on your live, expecting for some few good pieces of information to hunt my job. Okay. Well, I mean, you'd have to tell us more about where you're at in your overall skills, right? Generally speaking, with my content on my channel, I discourage hunting for individual jobs. I would much more encourage you to become a professional in the field. Best way to get a data science job and pass the interview is to actually be a data scientist, right? If you've put in the work, you put in the time, then passing the interview is a formality, right? Kind of like a doctor, right? A doctor will do his research into a hospital, make sure that's the place they want to work. But at the end of the day, they can just, go through the process and say, yeah, here's my medical licenses and here's my references, and that's it, right? Like nobody tech tests a doctor, right? So same thing for data science. Don't worry about passing the interview. Worry about being able to do a good job, okay? So if you want to let us know kind of where you're at, because for all I know, you're already an experienced professional. I don't know. There's not enough information here. But if you want to share more, maybe we can guide you a little bit more, all right? So our God says, Dennis, I used to work as a site engineer, mostly related to handling construction material and managing workers, but still it was not challenging or not seduce my mind as did data science, so I quit. Really? That's interesting. My understanding is that construction project management is a really interesting job, right? Because there's a lot of moving pieces to construction project management. But that wasn't enough? Wow. If you want to share more about that, let me know. But I always thought the impression I formed was that, one, it's a very interesting, very dynamic job, and two, that it's a very high-paying job. I've heard that construction project managers can, make a lot higher salaries than most people think. But that's interesting that it wasn't seducing your mind. Hey, if that's your way of saying that it just wasn't your passion, that's cool. I can understand that. But help me understand a little bit more about that. Like, are there any specific examples or whatnot? And then it's quite a move to go from construction into data science, right? Like, what was it about data science that brought you into that? I'm curious. Share whatever you're comfortable sharing, okay? M from Kerala, India. Maybe you heard God's own state. Hope you should visit once. I have heard of Kerala. I haven't heard of it described as God's own state. That's new to me. And yeah, I would love to visit India one time. I've never been out there. I should try to go out there. I have some friends there. I have some good friends there. So I should try to visit out there. Yeah. Yeah, actually, one of my friends recently reached out to me and asked me to do a presentation for his team. He works for an insurance company in Mumbai. So I'm going to do a presentation via Zoom for them. So that'll be fun. So yeah, I know plenty of people in India. I should go out there at some point. So Leo says, hey Dennis, based on your opinion, what would be the most promising subfield in DS, in data science for the next 10 years? What would you recommend mastering? It would be a concept or skill, not only technology. Great question, Leo. So Leo is asking, what is the most promising subfield on data science for the next 10 years? What would you recommend mastering? It could be a concept or skill, not only technology. So Leo, I hate to give you an abstract answer because maybe this is an answer I need to think about more, kind of away from you guys and kind of write it out. But I think one of the key skills is going to be creativity, because it's going to take the creative mind with some technology experience to be able to find new ties between existing processes and what Gen AI or AI in general can do, or even machine learning in general can do, right? So the future of AI, and I'm thinking about the next 10 years, as you say, Leo, is going to be in what's known as promptless AI, right? Or you hear about AI agents. There's going to be the need for tools that are basically completely automated and kind of anticipate your needs, right? And will kind of, take your workflow, your workday, your schedule or whatever, and on its own, without you coming up with a prompt, it will go out and do things that help you, right? So the best way I can explain this is I was working for a company that was going to deploy they were going to deploy a new software product that was going to replace an old software product. So at companies that can be kind of scary because, you have these big software packages that have maybe in this case, they had 8,000 users, 7,000 to 8,000 users on this package. And they needed to migrate them all, which is huge, right? That's a massive migration. And they were going from one package that was kind of sort of okay, but really old, to a brand new package that was fully customizable. We could customize everything in it, including adding our own code and our own snippets to it. It was super modern, right? And I remember that everybody was talking about and we could change the layouts and we can have nice colors over here and we can add the bigger logo and all that stuff. And I remember that I sat in this meeting, right? Because I'm there representing the data science side of it. And I told them, hey, by the way, do you also realize that we could create data science algorithms that'll sit there and determine the workflow? It'll know when person X logs in, they are very likely to go to this page, and after they visit that page, they go to this page, and then they go to this page, they go to that page, and then we could design an entire workflow that's all driven by AI, anticipating what they're going to need based on who they are and their level in the company or what tasks they're signing in to do and all that. I gave out this idea and I got crickets on it. Nobody replied, right? Not because they were dumb or because they were thinking I was dumb, But because people aren't used to that, right? They're not used to thinking about AI in those terms. They're used to thinking about AI as something that corrects my spell check, and I ask it when I'm traveling to Chicago and it'll develop an itinerary for me for a weekend out in Chicago, right? That's what people use ChatGPT for. And it's great for that, right? And it's great that the public is getting like, exposure that way, right? But there's going to be like a million different ways that AI will be implemented to be able to sit in these existing software packages or in tools or in your phone or whatever the case may be, and be able to do things on its own that the user was not even going to realize. Like, you're not even going to know it's working because it's just making your life better because it's that talented, because the AI, the Gen AI in it is so good, right? So Leo, that's what I mean by creativity, where you're going to have to, you, the data scientist, is going to have the creative eye to say, well, yeah, but if we hook this to that and we have this little Gen AI process running in it, we could do something there, right? So that's going to be the level that's going to separate the okay data scientists from like the great data scientists, for the people that can sit there and say, okay, we have this process and we've been using, this workflow, or we've been letting the user make these decisions. But if we use some promptless AI, we can actually have them do this, this, and this, right? And you can kind of sort of do that now, right? You can probably go to ChatGPT now and say, hey, I have this user. Here's what they did the last 10 times they logged in. What do you think they're likely to do the next time they log in? And, Gen AI will give you an answer for that, right? They are likely to go to this page. Okay, so now you can write some code that takes that answer and make sure that's the next page that the user sees. So that's AI, but it's not very visible AI, right? Like, the AI of the future is not always going to have like a splashy project or a splashy launch. It's going to be all these things working in the background that you don't even know are happening, but it's just inherently smarter. So that creativity, I think, is going to be the best skill. Because remember, guys, for me, I'm not afraid to hear crickets in a meeting because it knows that it tells me that I'm on the right track with my thinking, with my ideas, right? So that's where I think it's going. I'm pretty convinced that that's where it's going. It's going to happen like in a million different ways that you don't even realize. So I hope that answer helps, Leo. I know it's a little bit of an abstract answer, and maybe all of you don't understand it right now, but I guarantee you'll understand it later on in your careers. Where, as you gain more experience and start seeing how AI is actually used in the enterprise, you'll see what I mean. But that's where I think it's going. So great question, Leo. Okay, sorry for the long answer, guys, but it's a good topic. Lakshmi asks, yes, Sunday sessions are really worth attending. Learn a lot. Thanks for all the efforts and time. Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Lakshmi. Really, really good having you there. Love the participation. But yeah, glad you're getting something out of it. D says, thanks. I'm going to look at the videos you mentioned. Yeah, feel free to look in my archives. I have a lot of videos. It's all free. Spend as much time as you'd like. So Pollock was asking earlier about the skills. Pollock says, hi Dennis, I am from Finland. I am talking about early level professionals. Okay. So early level professionals, Pollock was asking, how do you define a full stack data scientist? What are the key skills that are needed? And we're going to frame that just for early professionals. So I think the main thing there, Pollock, is, and if we're talking about data scientists specifically, right? Not data engineers, not data analysts. The key for an early professional data scientist is to have a good fundamentals behind your modeling, right? Are you creating your models in a sound way? And are you exploring enough models for every project that you come across? I think those are the two things I would tell you are the most key for you. right? Are you making sure that you're running your experiments and your hyperparameter tuning and everything else in a sound way? And are you running a proper champion model process that gets you to a viable model? So why would I say that? Because one, it shows technical leadership, right? Technical proficiency is a form of leadership. So that's how you start building that, by showing that you're technically proficient. Two, you're also showing that you're executing a sound scientific process, right? Because if you are doing your modeling in an appropriate way, then you're probably using some of your scientific mind to do that, right? And third, and I hope this doesn't sound bad or anything, but every team needs worker bees, right? You have your leadership, you have your visionaries, your people who plan out, the old guys like me, right? But I need worker bees, right? I need people that I can say, hey, this is the plan. This is how I see the objects. Please go ahead and program this, this, and this. And, we're going to do it on a 2-week sprint, blah, 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 blah. I need worker bees to do that, right? If you're a good modeler, you will most likely be a good worker bee. And I've had some great worker bees that work for me over the years. And that's what I've seen is one of their greatest traits, right? That they're inherently good at modeling. And I think that's also important because the modeling is what separates most people, right? It separates you from being a data engineer. It separates you from being a traditional programmer. You have to be a good modeler to be a good data scientist, okay? So Pollock, I hope that helps you, okay? Yassine from Morocco asks, can you please give some advice and practice on how to develop and improve our business mindset? Yassine, this is something that a lot of people are asking about, and I might do something on this, but I think it has to be like a bigger piece of content, or maybe like I don't know what that looks like actually. But look, start small, right? Start by reading, news.yahoo.com. Just start getting used to reading business journals, right? Get away from the modeling, get away from the leak code, get away from the technical stuff. Just start reading business articles. And if you want to get more aggressive about it, start picking an industry and just read from that industry. And I'm not talking about reading about NVIDIA, right? Because that's still in the data. Go read about hospitals. Go read about, loans and banking or something like that, right? Like, get away from all that and just start reading that, right? Start reading press releases, start reading stock reports, start reading industry reports. And just get used to that terminology or the challenges in the industry or the players in the industry, right? So you don't have to do anything like, like sign up for a class, or just start reading and just start, ingesting some of that information from a business perspective, okay? So I'm specifically saying news.yahoo.com, not tech.yahoo.com, right? Because you can read that too, but that's too technical, too tech oriented, right? Well, get away from that. There are a couple other tools that I use that I've been planning to do a session on, and maybe I'll do that session sometime soon. But just start reading the news. And like I said, if you want to get aggressive about it, pick an industry, not tech related, and start reading about that. And then as you do that, you will eventually come across, some pain point or something that they mention where you say, hey, that sounds like an algorithm, right? So just start doing that. Just start getting familiar with it. We tend to kind of close ourselves off as technical people, right? But just start reading the news, right? Pick something, pick whatever interests you. Start reading about global warming or start reading about the travel industry or whatever. And then start looking for those opportunities to say, oh, okay, this industry report says that they're having challenges with this, but I bet that if they did this, this, and this, that could look like an algorithm. And that's how you're going to start making those ties, okay? Leo says, interesting. Yeah, Leo, I know that creativity isn't always like an easy skill to develop, but I think it's going to be critical. It's going to be critical to be able to say, hey, I have this idea for something that can really help people, and it's not a splashy product, it's not a new mobile app, but it's still using AI, It still has a fundamental benefit, and I think we should execute it. I'm telling you guys, that's going to be the future of our field. And then you're going to execute it with the help of AI tools, not by yourself writing raw code. Okay, so Argot is coming back to his comment about the construction management switch to data science. Managing the workers was fine, and handling the accounts was good too. How to pay the workers, but it was repetitive, and I didn't feel as challenging enough for me. I just wanted to automate it completely. Okay, all right. And it wasn't creative enough for me because it was all the same from the first job. All right, that's fair. So if you go to my YouTube, you will find how I made a mid-career transition to data science. So I wasn't passionate about what I was doing, decided to do some reflection, and wanted to do more data science, and did that. So I share my story in that. So feel free to check that out. Maybe that'll help you too, Argot. Maybe help you kind of take some time to yourself to think about what it is that you want to do. Okay. But thanks for sharing that. I appreciate that background. That's really cool. Rohan says, hello, Dennis. Thank you for these sessions. I'm a product manager and fascinated by data science capabilities. How can I learn data science to build products or to make informed business decisions? I'm going to assume you're coming from like a pretty low level of data science. Like it sounds like you have experience in other fields, but not directly data science, and you want to enhance your current understanding. Let me know if that assumption is incorrect, okay? But the best thing I can tell you is to start coming on Sundays to our classes. I don't know if that's going to be a little bit too advanced for you or not. It kind of depends on how far you've been in your data science studies now. But I appreciate that you have like this business background in another, kind of sort of related field. So I think that your best move is to start thinking about, well, what is it that algorithms do? Like, what are they capable of and what are they not capable of? And how do they go about making those decisions, right? If you can do that, then you might be able to start finding some of the ties into your specific work, your specific industry, right? So that's what I would encourage you to kind of start thinking about them at a high level, right? Don't get caught up in the code and all that. Start just thinking about them. Well, what is it algorithms do? Like, okay, they predict things. Okay, well, how? Like, how do I go about predicting things with algorithms, right? And then maybe that'll give you some ideas for where you could integrate it into your existing knowledge or your existing business, right? So let me know if that helps or not, Rohan. Feel free to add more in the comments, okay? Arnav says, hi Dennis, I have taken Foundation of Data Science course in university. Can you recommend me a good project for the course? Project could be implementing your own model or data set or implement an existing one. Okay. Arnav, I'm tempted to say that this is your first time attending because I don't think I've seen your name. For those of you that have attended before, you probably can already guess the answer I'm going to give. But Arnav, I tend to shy away from giving project ideas. And the reason I don't do that is because creativity is a big part of data science. And the projects that you do is basically kind of what helps separate you from other data scientists, right? Because if all we did was math, then we'd all be the same, right? So I'm going to encourage you to kind of take some time to think about what you've learned, because it sounds like you've taken a good course if it was university level. I want you to kind of view this as an opportunity to say, hey, I'm a pretty smart person. I've learned these things. So I'm going to take the time to think about this and think about my interests or articles that I read or different things that I've come across. And how can I apply what I just learned into that? Your ability to do that will be critical throughout your career. I'm not just talking like your first couple of years, like it's critical. Like even now, like for me, I've been in this field for a long time, but my creativity to help clients can determine whether I land that contract or not, right? And this is me many, many years into my career. So I don't want to deny you the opportunity to exercise some creativity here, because it's an opportunity for you to do that, right? So think about your interests. Think about articles you've read. Go out and read some new articles. What are some of the stuff that's happening out there in the world that you see as being able to help you, or to be helped by the data science concepts that you've learned? I think that's a valuable exercise and something that will help you in the future, okay? Abu, welcome Abu, says, hi Dennis, I am from Pakistan. What are your thoughts on the importance of publications in your career as a data scientist? Yeah, great question, Abu. It can help a lot. It can help a lot. I have found it to be very helpful. So a couple of examples come to mind. One example, let's think about this previous answer I gave to Pollock, right? About your career progression, right? You're a junior data scientist, you're a data scientist, you're a senior, and then you're a lead, and you're chief data scientist. One of the things that I have found is that writing and publishing your work, even if it's on LinkedIn or something else, is very important early on in your career. Because as people know, I've told people, if you put a link article in your resume, I'm very likely to check that. I am significantly more likely to check that than anything else you would include on your resume. So if you want to start publishing, putting stuff on LinkedIn, or X has article capabilities now, do it. Put your work out there, put your rationale out there, and include it on your resume. I think that will help you a lot early in your career. It will help establish you and be able to say, hey, my portfolio is a series of articles that I published on my own studies on LinkedIn. That will help you get off the ground in your career. I can pretty much guarantee you that, right? As you move on, I think you're going to find that less and less important. In the middle of your career, I think it's important to publish, but to publish to your stakeholders. Because that's how you will move up within your company. Well, you'll be establishing yourself as a technical expert within your company. So you should be publishing things via email or reports within your, like internal reports, I mean. Or maybe you have like a company intranet, like a company SharePoint or something like that, and you should be publishing on there. I've done that and I've gotten great feedback on that. Really good way to advance your career. And then later on, you might be looking at things like conferences and publishing at conferences, speaking at conferences. For me, I've always spoken at conferences throughout my career because, you know, I've been self-employed a lot throughout my career. So I have found that beneficial, but I've also published. I've also published when I went to become a data scientist, when I was just getting myself off the ground, right? But, you know, the later stages of my career, I'm doing a lot more conferences. I mean, in 2025, I'm probably going to do at least 3 conferences, right? I might still do one in 2024. I'm waiting to hear in a couple things. But that's the progression I would say in terms of publishing. I do think it's important. I do think it's important. You know, and to illustrate that, it's happened to me twice, I want to say. I know it's happened to me at least once, but maybe twice. But I've had people who tell me, like, when they've either hired me for a contract or when they're interviewing me for the contract, they'll tell me like, oh, well, we called you in because when we Googled you, we found one of your conference presentations. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. You know, like there was somebody who told me that they saw, I didn't even know this, but I spoke at a conference and I guess it was being videotaped and they put it on YouTube and they found that YouTube. I still haven't seen it to this day, but he told me that it was out there somewhere. And he was like, yeah, I saw you on video and I thought you were great. So that's why I wanted to hire you. So as you move on in your career, I think it does become more important to get out there in conferences and talk to people, right? So yeah. And also for me, I mean, the stuff I'm doing with you guys on a daily basis, the stuff we're doing, you know, with this book, that's also my form of publishing now at my stage in my career, right? Like, I don't know if it seems that way to you guys or not, But to me, like, this is, to be able to do this is kind of like a form of advancement in my career, because like this is like a super technical book, a very well respected book. So like, who the hell am I to say that I can teach this book, right? Like that's like crazy, right? Like this is a serious book. I had some very serious people teach me this book, you know, many moons ago, right? But so who am I to say, yeah, I can teach the world this book? But like that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at in my career, in my technical skills, right? Because, you know, I think I've been doing a pretty good job of it. But this is also like a form of publishing for me and a form of my advancement in my own career. But that's just where I'm at in my stage, right? But like, you know, it takes some guts to be able to say, yeah, I can teach the yellow book. Like, this is not an easy book, right? Like I was thinking about that the other day and it kind of hit me like, whoa, like what the hell am I doing? But that's where I'm at in my career. You know, that's where my skills and my data science practice has led me. So yeah, thanks for the question, Abu. I think publishing is important. It's just going to have different forms throughout your career. Okay. Satyam, how to improve EDA skills and what's a data engineer do? Is don't do it. Don't study it. That's going to be replaced by AI. If you don't believe me, take your latest data set, put it into ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT what it does. You'll see. Yassine says, thank you, sir. Well, you're welcome, Yassine. I hope that helps. You know, you ask good questions. I know you're a student. I know you're you're wanting to advance in your career. So I hope that helps. You know, you keep the good questions coming. Arnav says, sir, knowing the exact idea is not my intention. I would appreciate if you help me understand which direction I should look into considering. I don't have much knowledge about models yet. Well, it's not about models. It's about what you're trying to solve. And it's about what data science is capable of or not capable of. So look, guys, here's something that we could talk about. One of the fundamental skills that has helped me a ton in my career is being able to say, that's a data science project, that's not a data science project. You're going to get people, when you're working in the industry, you're going to get a lot of people coming to you and saying, Dennis, I've got this fantastic data science project for you. We got to work on it together. And then they tell you about it and it's just some advanced statistics. And it's just some math that they don't know how to do, right? It's not a data science project, right? So Arnav, I would encourage you to think about it in terms of like, let me just go out and try to find what if I can identify a proper data science project or not. Right? So don't worry about like, oh, I don't know too many models. Worry about knowing whether you know what data science is enough to be able to say, that's a data science project, that's not. And then start from there. And then start saying, okay, yeah, that looks like a data science project. Why? Why does it look like a data science project? Because if you can identify that, then you can start to say, okay, well, how would I go about solving that? Is that a categorization problem? Is that a prediction problem? What am I predicting? Right? And then the ball starts to roll from there, right? And again, you're assuring us that you've taken a course, so you know some of these things should start clicking with you at some point. Okay, so I hope that helps. D says, could you please suggest books, not videos, to study math and probability statistics as prerequisites before beginning with the ISL? There are no... Yeah, hold on a second, D. Why do you think there's prerequisites for the ISL book? There's no prerequisites for the ISL book. The authors say that, right? The authors say that a deep knowledge of math and statistics is not needed. If you read I believe it's in chapter 1. Chapter 1, they present four different tenets for their book. And that's one of them. That deep mathematics is not needed for the book. So you might want to reevaluate your assumptions there. There are no prerequisites for the ISL book, okay? Argod says, Dennis, I do have a great idea related to data science. Once I complete that, I'll share that in Discord. I would like you to look into it. I feel shy to share the idea. Okay. You know, Argod, you're expressing something that I hear a lot. And people tell me this in the chat, or they approach me privately, in my direct messages and things like that. People are shy about putting their results out there, putting themselves out there. And I get it. It's not for everyone. It can be intimidating. But I say this for Argot and for everybody else. That's something that I promise you will get easier with time. But you have to do it at some point. You have to kind of jump in, like the first time when you jump into the pool, you're really scared. But afterwards you feel like, oh, okay, this is not so bad. And then jumping into the pool next time is a little easier and easier and easier, right? So I get it. Sharing your ideas, sharing your results, sharing your code can be very intimidating. But you know what? One, you got to do it because it's only going to get easier. And it only gets easier by you actually doing it. And two, I think we have a really good community on Discord, right? I think that, we're pretty supportive of each other. I think people keep things pretty professional. And I have the assistance of some good moderators there, our volunteer moderators. So, shout out to the moderators. So if something does get out of hand, I think you're going to be okay. So it's up to you to kind of gauge your own comfort level, right? Because I don't want you to do anything you're uncomfortable with. But it's one of those things that's going to get easier over time. So I empathize with what you're saying. I hear it a lot. A lot of people do share that with me, that it's embarrassing, it's intimidating. Maybe my work's not good enough. A little bit of imposter syndrome. I get it. But if you share it in Discord, I'll do my best to encourage the conversation. I think people keep the conversation good and professional. So it's up to you when you want to do that, but I get it. I understand why you'd be slow to share it. Okay. Pranay says how to perform better with take-home data science tasks. Sorry, Pranay, we don't help with homework here. The way to perform better with your take-home tasks is to pay attention in class. Put the phone down, sir. Argot says it's related to the question I asked you from YouTube. Yeah, I think I got you, Argot, on that. Rohan says, yes, that's correct. I've worked on SQL Tableau before and am familiar with machine learning algorithms on a surface level, but I want to master it. My background is in merchandising as a product manager. Okay, cool. Yeah. Thanks for that background. I appreciate that. So if you worked with SQL, you've worked with Tableau, you work with machine learning algorithms, great, you have the tools. So now I would encourage you to learn about why would you do that? What is the purpose of using Tableau and having visualization stages, right? So I would encourage you to think about it in those terms, well, why did I learn SQL? Are there times when I'm more likely than not to need SQL? When is SQL important in a project lifecycle? Right? So I would encourage you to think about that, okay? You have the tools, but now I want you to understand the why and the when. All right, Rohan? Let me keep on looking here. Nithin says, I'm a mechanical engineer graduate who got interested in the field of data science, and I did a course in self-learning. I got my first job as a data science instructor. Okay, cool. Thanks for that background, Nithin. Leo says, for EDA, just don't ignore the missing values. They're still better handled manually or by using your own rules to handle them. Yeah, but ChatGPT will do that for you too, right? EDA is probably the first methodology point of data science that will get eaten up by AI. So sure, it's good to know how to do it manually and to know what's happening underneath the hood, know what ChatGPT is doing. But as a skill set, as a stage in a project, I guarantee you that's going to get chewed up and by ChatGPT in the very near future. So Rohan says, my question is, how can I use data science in forecasting and optimization and merchandising? Yeah, Rohan, so I would still encourage you with the same answer, right? understand the methodology of data science, because what you're really asking here is, what is data science capable of? Right? That's the point that you're missing. That's kind of like the missing piece that feeds the question you're asking right there. Because you're really not aware of what it's capable of and how to get there. You know the tools to get there, but how do you put it all together? You put it all together by designing your own project, right? And a project is the process and the methodology behind data science. So that's the portion that you're missing, yeah? So that's what I would encourage you to think about. I would encourage you to think about, well, what are the capabilities of data science? And also keep in mind that I'm asking you to think about it in this way because I want you to take a meta view. Because when you're saying, I want to talk about forecasting and I want to talk about forecasting and merchandising, that's kind of like putting the cart ahead of the horse, as they say, right? Try to not be a solution looking for a problem, right? Because you're starting with an end goal in mind, but that's probably not ideal. You want to learn the fundamentals of data science, and then that way that'll kind of open you up to the different possibilities. Maybe forecasting is the right tool, maybe not. Who knows? I'm not sure you have a big enough base of data science to be making that assumption now, right? So think about it in those terms. You still want to be open to other models and other things that data science can do for you in any number of industries. And then it just so happens that maybe forecasting does or does not fit the merchandising industry. Who knows? The scientific mind is open to any number of possibilities, right? So a little bit more meta thinking, okay, Rohan? You're asking great questions, and I love the fact that you're looking at this change, but keep it a little bit more meta, okay? Arnav says, you just said the exact thing my professor said. He told me that he wants a data science project and not some ML related project. He wanted to create a difference between them. Thanks a lot. Okay. Yeah, well, your professor sounds like a really smart guy. Yeah, it sounds like you're getting good guidance, right? Because a data science project is not necessarily machine learning. A data science project could be regression, and regression is not machine learning. A data science project technically could be some really advanced analytics. There's not always a model to a data science project, right? You could have a data science project where it's just a series of probabilities that you created from analytics, or something that you created via Monte Carlo simulation. That's still coding, but Monte Carlo simulations are not algorithms, right? They're not like traditionally thought of as models. So yeah, it sounds like he's giving you good guidance there. Okay. Arnav says he wanted us to learn a difference. Yeah, that sounds great. I like your professor. Right? If he's asking you to draw those distinctions and think about it in those bigger terms, you're getting good guidance. Listen to your professor. Rahul says, I still don't know swimming, so the analogy scared me. Yeah, okay. Okay, but look, the point is you got to do it, and there's no substitute for doing it. But when you do it, it'll get easier the next time, and the next time, the next time, okay? But I empathize with you. It's hard to share your work. It's not an easy thing. I get it. Sharing your work, sharing your code, sharing your results, not easy. But you got to do it, and there's no substitute for doing it. All right? Satyam says, is ESL the next book to read after ISL, or is ISL something you start doing modeling and getting your hands dirty? ESL came before ISL. So I don't know of anyone advocating to read ESL after ISL. So be careful with that, Satyam. It's important to know that history. And to answer your second question, yes, I think ISL it should be sufficient for you to do your own explorations. Not to get a job, right? And I say that, right? I'm teaching this course, but I'm not promising that you'll be ready for a job after. I'm just teaching the course because I think it's a good course. But it is enough for you to be able to say, hey, I'm a smart person. I'm a smart thinking person. Let me start reading some articles. Let me start seeing how this applies to my hobbies, to my interests, to the company I work for. Let me see if I can, develop some of my own ideas. Maybe there's some things that I can look at. Maybe I can hunt down my own data sets. Right? You should have that ability after the ISL book. Okay. D says, what's your view about certifications in data science for Microsoft and Amazon? Do recruiters value them? D, that's a good question. And the answer is it depends. What is your view about certifications for data science for Microsoft and Amazon? Do recruiters value them? Where are you applying? Are you applying at a company that has these services? If they do, they'll value them. If not, they won't value them. So I want you to realize that there are cloud companies and then there are on-premise companies. Not every company out there uses cloud, guys. All right? Do not fall into the trap of thinking that cloud is the only way that companies use data science. There are plenty of companies that have zero interest in your AWS or Google certifications because they work locally. I guarantee you there's companies out there that do that, right? So don't get too caught up in that. And I also encourage you to not get caught up in that from the very beginning. There are still a million things you can do in data science on your local machine, in your little local lab, using your local CPU. Okay? You don't have to use GPU for everything. Just set yourself up with a IDE for your code and a way to execute that code locally, most likely from like a terminal window. And you can sit there and you can learn a lot. You can sit there and teach yourself for at least the first 2 years before you even think about cloud and AWS and Azure and all that, okay? And that kind of simplifies things for you, right? It simplifies it for you because you don't have to learn two things now. You don't have to learn both data science and how AWS works, how Azure works, right? Just learn on your own, okay? Learn on your own, learn the fundamentals. The cloud stuff can come later, and you might not even need them. You might not even work for a company that requires cloud, okay? They might want you to be working from a terminal window all the time, okay? So keep that in mind. Leo says it helps, but at least on my experience, it tends to generalize a lot. It's helpful. Yeah, but Leo, this is only Act 1, right? Like in 2 years, those algorithms are going to be so advanced that it's going to be crazy how good they're going to be. Like, this goes not just for Leo, but for everyone in the chat. Guys, remember, algorithms are not static. Algorithms change and improve all the time, right? So don't blow off ChatGPT just because it made a mistake or because it wasn't great today, right? In a couple years, I mean, it's going to be like ridiculous how much they're going to advance. The iterations are going to come really, really fast. So don't sleep on them. It might generalize now, but it's going to really, really advance very, very quickly, right? Mohammed says, is problem solving very important in data science or AI? I know it's kind of a weird question, but I do need to know. Yes, it is. It's more about the identification of the problem. Like what is the problem you're trying to solve? And how do you best solve it from a business perspective? Not necessarily an AI perspective or what you'd like it to be, but what does your business stakeholder need? Being able to properly define that, super important. But yeah, I agree with you, Mohammed. It is very important. Ahab says, hi chat. Hi Ahab, let us know where you're from. We ask people to tell us their city, state, country, province, all that stuff, okay? Nithin says, as a data science instructor, I got the exposure, understand the field much more. I really got interest in the area of computer vision. I really like to work with neural networks. Okay, very cool, Nithin. Abdullah says, I'm new here. Well, welcome, Abdullah. And I didn't follow you, but I have a question. What do you do with all the information we get through data visualization? I'm really confused. You shouldn't get anything from data visualization. Your business stakeholders should get things from visualizations. The reason you don't get anything from it is because it's not your data. You're not a business team. You're a tech team, right? The data science is a tech team. It's an innovation team. Visualizations should be tools that you hand back over to your stakeholders and say, what do you think? What do you see? Is there anything surprising in these results? That's why you don't get it, because you're not a business guy. And you shouldn't try to be that, right? Visualizations are for the business side, not for you. Your team and you will create the framework to make those visualizations available and accessible by your business stakeholders, but you shouldn't get a whole lot from them. Okay, so that's why they're not making sense, because it's not your data. Mr. Krish, let us know where you're from, please. Data science for space, i.e. geospatial. That's deep. That's deep. I'm transitioning from web dev. I have been self-studying for almost a year now. My main interests are NLP and coding. So I'm finding myself going the data engineering route, but I don't want to lose the NLP. Okay, well, they're not exclusive, right? NLP pipelines or data engineering for NLP can be a unique field, right? So you could still like specialize in NLP and keep up with your own self-studies. There's nothing preventing you from doing that. So I think you'll be just fine. They're not exclusive. They're not mutually exclusive, okay? Rahul says, you are a delight, Dennis. Catch you tomorrow. Okay, Rahul, we'll see you. Thanks for stopping by. Don't drink too much. Nithin says, where to focus, traditional ML algorithms or neural networks? What? Who's the instructor here? I thought you were the instructor. I think you'll be fine with that decision. Satyam says, I'm saying in regards of higher level models and multiple more techniques than ISL. Plus the ESL is also like a higher standard after ISL that I think about, but sure, I'll stick to ISL. Well, look, don't let comparison be the thief of joy, right? Just because there are higher models out there doesn't mean that what you have now can't be used, right? The reason why I'm encouraging you to do your own projects is because ISL is a very good book, but it's still academic, right? They're still giving you the data sets and telling you what to do. And hey, you want to use this model for this data? The real world's not like that. Right? The real world is not like that. You're going to have to come up with the data. You're going to have to come up with what model to use. And then that's a whole process, right? How do you determine what model to use? You just learned what? There's 10 chapters in ISL. You learn about 12 to 13 different models in there. How are you going to choose? There's no book author there telling you what to do. There's no professor that just hands over nice, clean data. So that's the real benefit, right? The real benefit is saying, okay, now I have to go get my own data. Well, that data is in a PDF. I've only worked with CSV, so now I got to learn how to work with a PDF. Or, you know, this data is not normally distributed. What do I do about that? Your professor only gave you normally distributed data, so it always worked just fine. But the real world's not like that, right? So that's the benefit, Satyam. To kind of get over those little challenges that you're going to come across in the real world, right? Because That's where you'll be doing data science. Your boss is not going to give you nice, clean data from a single source, right? You're going to have to do it on your own. Sometimes you're going to have to go to combat to get some of that data, right? You'd be surprised how protective people are of their data in corporate environments. Like, I've had to do some hand-to-hand combat just to get some data sometimes, right? Like, that's where the win is, right? So don't worry about, oh, ESL's advanced and my friend told me this. Forget all that. Start developing your skills in the real world. And if you want more of that topic, that's exactly why I wrote my book. So your first year in data science, it's available on Amazon. I'm affordable across the world. Read the book because that's where I talk about academics versus real world data science. And that doesn't matter how many models you know or what book is advanced, what book is not advanced. Just get out and start doing it on your own, developing your own practice, your own style to data science. Okay? Very, very important. Super important. D says, thanks for answering all my questions so patiently. You are probably the best thing happening on YouTube. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's a nice compliment. Yeah, I try to be patient with everyone, and I'm doing my best to put out quality content, right? I mean, that's why I did this, because I figured that there's probably a lack of really good content, and there's a lot of fake accounts that are just using ChatGPT to create their content. So I want to help the industry. I truly care about the industry enough to want to see it grow and grow with good people, right? So I'm doing my part to help that. Ahab says, in response to Satyam, I'm half sure I remember the authors of ISL saying ESL is more of a reference book manual than something you would traditionally study or read. Okay, cool. Thanks for that. I did not know that. I know that in chapter 1, there are some references to ESL, and maybe that's where they say that. I can't quite remember. But thanks for that. I appreciate that background. Rahul says, hey, I'm sober now, so that's why I'm on YouTube. You forgot the That's funny, Rahul. You're right. You're right. I should have known that you were sober, because I should have seen the little Yahoo, YouTube icon next to your name. So I apologize for failing you in the algorithm. Lord Parash says, do you think data processing is a hard part of data science jobs? No, I don't think it's the hardest. It's probably just the most time consuming. A good part of your project, which means a good part of your day-to-day time as a data scientist, is obtaining the data, just getting the data to a usable state. That's like, I know people say 80%. I think that might be a slight exaggeration. But yeah, it's not hard. It's just you have to go out and get it. You have to go out and talk to people, and then you have to go out and get examples of the data, and then you have to update the data, delete the data, move the data. Again, things that you don't have to do in academia. I have yet to see an academic project that has you pulling data from multiple data sources. But in the business world, you're going to need access to this SQL database. And then you also need some from the big data repository like Hadoop. And then you also need to pull data that's in a PDF. And that PDF is a report that is emailed to somebody's inbox on a weekly basis. So now how do you get access to that inbox? Like there's like a bunch of different little challenges you're going to have to solve. They're not hard per se, but you just have to put in the time for it. And it's not something that like academia teaches you, right? Like nobody out there is telling you, hey, to complete this project, you have to pull from 3 different data sources. Like I have yet to see a project that does that. Like even Kaggle doesn't do that as far as I know. If somebody can correct me on that and show me something, I'm open to being wrong on that. But like, you have to do that in the real world. You have to do that in corporate environments. When's the last time you guys did a project where you were doing the algorithms in Python and you were pulling the data from SAS? Like nobody out there is practicing that, but you're going to do it in the corporate environment at some point. I guarantee you, right? So those are the different things that make it hard, Lord Parash. So, excuse me, to make it challenging. So it's not hard, it's just time consuming. Because now you have to write the code for all of that, right? Like, you know, in academia, working with data is, you know, import the CSV, right? I mean, that's your data handling, right? You know, with pandas, right? That's not how you do it in the real world. Okay. Michael, good to see you. You're late, my friend. You're late, but glad you're here. We're running really late today. I mean, this is one of my longer streams, so good for all you guys for hanging out. Do you think I should also learn data engineering for data science? As someone coming from data analytics background, is that important? It depends, Michael. Where is more of your interest lie? So you might have heard me say this before, but I would only recommend data engineering because it might be a good way for you to get onto a team, right? You could start on a general data science team, but come in as a data engineer. Like the learning curve to becoming a data engineer is potentially faster than a data scientist. And most companies are more open to taking a junior person as a data engineer versus a data scientist. So that's really the only reason I would recommend that, or like the circumstances that I would recommend it under. But if your passion is really more on the data science side, then go for the data science side, right? Like you could also just say, no, I'm really passionate about data science and I'm willing to accept that it might take me a little bit longer to land my job and do that. That's perfectly okay for you to say that, right? If that's really what you're passionate about, then go for it, right? But that's what I would say, okay? So I hope that helps you. Joseph says, how does a data scientist in industry document the data cleaning and organizing process? I know we touched to go on this, but with respect to experimentation a few Sundays ago. You know what, Joseph? It's not always properly documented. Because you're right. I remember our discussion about documenting your experiments, and that's super important. But I'm not sure I've ever had a work project or a situation where the data side was documented in an extensive way. Yeah, I don't think so, Joseph. You know, because data pipelines, when it comes to things like this, it tends to be something. Well, if you're doing it right, a lot of the data engineering, the pipeline stuff is write once code, right? Like there shouldn't be too many reasons for you to have to go and revisit that code. Hopefully, right? In an ideal world, right? Database schemas don't tend to change too much, right? Reports, generally speaking, are static, right? You might have to revisit them once a year or whatever when somebody changes a report or things like that. But like if you're pulling from a Hadoop environment, it's not like those tables just drop, one day to the next, right? So I don't think people document them just because they really shouldn't change that often. It's write once code. So you kind of just tend to go back to it when something breaks, right? So yeah, Joseph, I don't know if anybody doing that. I really can't think of a lot of scenarios where that's been like something that's been highly demanded. By the way, thank you so much for the recommendation on the on documenting experimentation. We're gonna do that. I just haven't gotten a chance to it because I want to do because I'm thinking of beyond the ISL book. Like I want to keep Sunday special so that it'll be like a special instructional every Sunday, and that might be one of them. Like I'm cooking up a couple other ideas. But that might be one of them where I do that type of instruction on Sunday, okay? Ahab says, I try to work on projects that combine both NLP and data engineering. Currently, I'm making an ELT pipeline that extracts demographic insights from introductions in natural language to a data warehouse. Yeah, great. Sounds like a great way to combine those skills. I'm on board with that, Ahab. Michael says, thanks, Dennis. Well, Michael, I hope that helps. I know you're a consistent attendee, and you ask really good questions. So I do hope that helps you. So thank you for that feedback. All right, guys. So we've gone for an hour and a half. That's a super long stream. Thank you so much for hanging in there with me. I stream every day at 1500 GMT. Feel free to join our Discord. The links should already be pinned in whatever chat you're joining in from. Great discussion there. Some of the same people that you're seeing in the chat are also there. So in other words, it's a really great group, a really enthusiastic group that wants to learn. So feel free to follow us on Discord. I also participate there, when I want to maybe help the conversation a little bit. But tomorrow, my friend Lynn is joining us. Don't forget, HR Analytics Specialist. She is an incredible source of knowledge. So please take advantage of that. Who else? Who else is bringing you directors and managing directors? Give me their names. Nobody else is doing this. So take advantage of it, guys. So I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, take care of yourselves. Take care of your families. Be good to your families. And I'll see you next time.